Joe Rogan brutally criticized American media companies because of Kamala Harris' situation, and Rogan exposed how he completely dominates the current state of the media. According to Rogan, media members and media companies are doing everything they can to finally restrict free speech of the American people. That's why Rogan revealed mind-boggling details about Kamala Harris' situation and explained how Kamala's decline for the interview exposed dirty things in the American media and politics. And there are many examples where Rogan exposed media. And probably the worst situation when the media showed their true colors was when Kamala Harris declined a Rogan interview. As you know, very often media members and people like Don Lemon denounced Rogan and said how he is constantly lying and portraying a different person on podcasts and how he is a con man. And it's not a big secret that media members like Don Lemon and generally the whole media can't stand Joe Rogan. Well, it gets worse. For example, it's a famous story how MSNBC downplayed Rogan's impact on politics and made it seem like his non-endorsement of Kamala Harris was not a big deal, and Beyoncé's endorsement, for example, was more important. And it all started with the episode number 2220 of the Joe Rogan Experience, where Rogan criticized Kamala Harris for making a wrong decision for not accepting his invitation to podcasts before the elections. But then MSNBC posted an article that made it look like Rogan not supporting Harris in her run for president was not a big deal, and Beyoncé's support was far more important. Rogan and his guests, Frances Foster and Konstantin Kisin, discussed the state of the 2024 presidential elections. Rogan argued that people are falling for nonsense in a way I didn't expect. He mentioned that because Harris is up against Donald Trump, he could see her winning. However, the fact that she is not accepting the interview with him is not a right move. And MSNBC posted an article with the caption, "Why Harris and Beyoncé were a bigger deal than Trump and Joe Rogan." Then Rogan revealed details about what really happened with Kamala. He said, "She had an opportunity to come here when she was in Texas, and I literally gave them an open invite. I said anytime. I said, if she's done at 10 o'clock, we come back here at 10 o'clock. I go, I'll do it at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'll do it at 10 p.m. I'll do it at midnight. If she's up, she wants to, drink a Red Bull and party on." However, she declined and she did other interviews with other media. And of course, there were several articles supporting Kamala's choice to not go to Rogan's podcast. But was that a right choice? Remember earlier when Rogan said about MSNBC and other media, they just want no Trump no matter what, and they're willing to deceive themselves. Well, as we can see, Trump ended up winning, so maybe this situation proved again that Rogan's influence was far bigger than the other media. However, the situation is far more complex. It started when in 2020, Rogan shared that he would prefer Trump to Joe Biden if Biden became the Democratic candidate for president. However, he wanted to understand which candidate was better. So, Joe extended his platform, his podcast, for a debate between Trump and Joe Biden. Trump agreed to the debate, however, Biden didn't respond. Rogan, who had previously supported Bernie Sanders, criticized the Democratic Party for backing Biden as their preferred choice. He felt the party had let voters down by not offering a stronger candidate. Rogan expressed frustration with the direction the party had taken, particularly in its treatment of progressive supporters like himself. That's when Rogan talked about this with ex-MMA fighter Tim Kennedy, and they discussed Trump and Biden, and Rogan admitted he would never vote for Biden. And Rogan explained how there was a real possibility of him having a 3 or 4 hour presidential debate. However, Biden never responded. Same day, Donald Trump said he's willing to join an extra debate with Joe Biden, which would be hosted by Joe Rogan. Trump replied, "I do," to a tweet from Tim Kennedy. But after this debate didn't happen on the Joe Rogan Experience, Rogan explained his preference for Trump. Rogan said Biden didn't seem fit to handle the challenges of being president. He said, "I'd rather vote for Trump than Biden. I don't think Biden can handle anything. You're relying entirely on his cabinet. If you want to talk about an individual leader who can communicate, he can't do that." In contrast, Rogan noted that Trump, despite the immense pressures of the role, appeared to manage the presidency more effectively than expected. Then in 2024, despite his previous assertions that he would never host Donald Trump on his podcast, Joe Rogan eventually extended an invitation to Trump. As you know, before that, Rogan had consistently declined opportunities to interview Trump, stating in 2022, "I've had the opportunity to have him on my show many times. I don't want to help him." However, following an assassination attempt on Trump during a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, Rogan reconsidered, feeling that the timing was right for such a conversation. The resulting 3-hour interview, released in October 2024, covered a wide range of topics and garnered significant attention, amassing over 45 million views on YouTube. Following this discussion, Rogan, who had previously been critical of Trump, formally endorsed him in the lead-up to the 2024 presidential election. This endorsement was notable, given Rogan's substantial influence and his show's vast audience, and it underscored a shift in his political stance. And so after that interview, Rogan released details about how he wanted to interview Kamala as well, but there were important reasons why she declined. Rogan shared more about how his plan to interview Vice President Kamala Harris before the election fell through. There were a few restrictions of things they didn't want to talk about, but I said, "I don't care. Get her in here. Like whatever you want to talk about," Rogan said. They offered a date for Tuesday, but I would have had to travel to her, and they only wanted to do an hour. I strongly feel the best way to do it is in the studio in Austin. My sincere wish is to just have a nice conversation and get to know her as a human being. I really hope we can make it happen, Rogan added. Rogan also mentioned that Harris's team asked if the show would be edited, which he firmly refused. They wanted to know if I edit. I was like, "There's not going to be any editing. There's no editing. We're not going to edit," Rogan said. Then, after Kamala Harris declined an invitation to appear on Joe Rogan's podcast, her decision sparked widespread discussion in the media. Major outlets, including MSNBC, rallied behind her, framing the move as a principled stand against what some perceived as Rogan's controversial rhetoric. Harris's camp seemed confident that bypassing Rogan would not significantly impact her outreach, particularly given her broad support from traditional media networks. The narrative projected was that traditional platforms were still the dominant force in reaching voters. However, as the election results unfolded, it became evident that Rogan's platform held unparalleled influence in the current media landscape. With his millions of dedicated listeners spanning diverse demographics, Rogan proved to have a far deeper and broader reach than many mainstream outlets. His podcast's ability to shape narratives and influence public discourse demonstrated the shifting dynamics of media power, where long-form, unfiltered conversations resonated more with audiences than traditional soundbites and carefully curated interviews. Voter data and post-election analyses showed a clear correlation between Rogan's discussions and key shifts in public sentiment, underscoring his impact. This outcome highlighted Joe Rogan's dominance in the modern media ecosystem, eclipsing the traditional networks that once held sway over public opinion. His platform's authenticity and appeal to a diverse audience showcased a new era where independent voices could wield more influence than legacy media giants. The decision to bypass Rogan, initially supported by media allies, in hindsight appeared to be a missed opportunity for Harris's campaign to connect with a critical and growing audience segment. Rogan's role in shaping the cultural and political discourse has only solidified his status as a key player in the evolving media landscape. And that's it for today.